Back again with another torch video. This time I'm looking at the Acebeam E70 Mini. This was sent in via a company called flashlightbrand.com, so I'll be putting links down below. Not much technical information on the box, so I'm going to put that on screen for you. Here's your user guide and warranty card. I'll be putting the user manual on screen a bit later on, as I normally do. Type A to Type C charging cable. Also included is an Acebeam wrist strap. This is sort of a flat design, quite nice really, a bit different to the normal ones, and a couple of spare O-rings. We'll move on to the body design now and have a look at that. It's quite compact, but it wouldn't be the smallest 18650 torch around. But they've got some nice styling and design on the head of the torch. You've got the holes there and the grooves, and a nice quality clip, and that can be unbolted if you want to take that off. I don't find it gets in the way though, so personally I would leave that on. You'll also notice the holes that they have there near the base or tail cap, and that's for the wrist strap. That is a bit tricky to feed that through, and this has an electronic switch, so there isn't much travel on it, but it is metal, and it does feel quite nice. Good feedback off of that. We've got three 519A LEDs. Haven't used these before, so it'll be interesting to see how they perform. I also like the design of the bezel. It's not too aggressive, it does have a little bit of an edge, but there's no real sharp edges anywhere on this torch. It's one of the nicest torches that I've used in terms of the design and the overall finishing. You can just unscrew the head here to get to the battery compartment. You can get this with or without a battery. This is the 3100 milliamp hour Type C charging, so you can just charge that directly. You don't have to use a separate battery charger, and some people don't have a charger, so that could be quite useful. I just show you on the inside they've got some markings there for the battery, the terminal direction, and at the bottom there is a spring. I do like the colour, I think it works quite well, but the problem is, despite the fact we have two springs, it's not long enough for unprotected batteries. You'll have to use a spacer, and in this case I had to use two spacers so that it could actually reach the spring and the battery doesn't rattle around. I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't make those springs a bit longer and you'd be able to use the unprotected cells without having to use spacers. And here's the unprotected cell compared to the one that's supplied. We'll move on to the UI now. So it's a double press for on, and you do have a memory for the 4 power levels. When it's on, all you need to do is hold the switch in to cycle those levels. Single press turns the torch off. And if you want to get to the ultra low, that has its own shortcut, just push and hold in the switch for about a second. You can also go through the power levels if you hold it in. And then onto the turbo mode, double press, and then double press will take you back to the last level. And your access for the strobe, that is a triple press. You can use that whether the torch is on or off. For your electronic lockout, it's just a long press on the switch. 5 seconds and 3 seconds to unlock, but you can just twist the head slightly and that will lock out the torch with a mechanical lockout. As far as the UI goes, it does take a bit of getting used to. I think it's that single press to turn off, which is a little bit different to what I'm used to. Here's the charging information on the battery. You can see it charges at just under 1 amp. And a quick comparison next to the Unicorn. As you can see, it is a bit longer, although not by much. Still fairly compact, and the Unicorn is, despite the fact that it's called a neutral white, it is quite a warm tint off of this torch, as you can see on screen. When I move on to the Acebeam, you'll see that the tint is quite different. This is what you would call a real neutral white tint. It's pretty much close enough to daylight, around about 5000 kelvins, and it's a high CRI, so you will get good colour reproduction. I do like the beam off of this torch. It's a very wide beam, nicely spread out, but it's not so floody that it doesn't give you a sort of half decent bit of range. Quick comparison next to the jet beam. That is a lower power torch, but it does have a bit more range, a bit more focus on the beam. Cool white LEDs on that torch. Did a review on that a few years ago. I'll do a few more beam shots on the Acebeam, so do have a look through those. And at the end, I'll just give you a quick summary and tell you what I think about this. I was quite interested to look at the E70 Mini, partly because I haven't looked at an Acebeam torch for a while, but I also like the look of it. I do quite like the fact that they've done something a bit different with the design. I'm also quite fond of the beam. I think it's a nice beam pattern. It's also nice to have the high CRI. I do think a lot of people are going to like the beam on this torch and the tint. But there are a couple of things which do bother me. The most obvious is the fact that there isn't a very low output on this. When you've got 6 power levels, it's a bit strange that you don't have an output that's, say, 1 or 2 lumens, or perhaps even lower. If they'd have made those springs longer, that would have been a nice touch too. Do have more torches coming in and other products, so do hang in there, do stick around, and I'll catch up with you in my next video.